Let's see if the microphone works. Can you see the bars right here? Can you see the bars right here going back and forth? And I guess I have to remember to turn it on and off.
I think you're good there.
We are back in session. Want to give a huge shout out to Trinity County IT department and our admin staff for painstakingly working their way through our update issues. So hopefully everything's going to go forward flawlessly. Now, in the event that it doesn't, I'm going to take an item out of order. I'm going to jump down to the consent calendar. I'm going to pull item 3.4. This item has a drop dead deadline of today. And so I would like supervisors to at least hear item 3.4, adopt a resolution which designates the Trinity County Arts Council as the local arts agency. We really don't have anybody necessarily to speak for this. Carla may be online. Typically we wouldn't need it unless we pulled it for consideration. So
well, we didn't schedule a presentation. I'll move that we approve as presented.
public
comment. Yeah. Sorry.
all right, so I open public comment for item 3.4. Anybody in the room wishing to speak?
I have Carla Avila.
Great. Good morning, Carla.
Good morning, Chair Cox and Supervisors. This is Carla Avila from High and Palm and Executive Director of Trinity County Arts Council. Thank you so much, Chairwoman Cox, for bringing this item forward because we do have a deadline. What it is we are in order to receive our grant funding, which has slightly shifted cycles this year, requiring a slightly from the Board of Supervisors. It's a long-standing resolution that we renew each year in order to confirm that we are the local state partner or the local arts agency, if you will, of Trinity County on behalf of the California Arts Council. And it is required in order for us to be able to seek funding for our operational budget and to exist. So we thank you deeply. I'm happy to answer any questions. We receive budget from the California Arts Council to be a state local partner and serve the local community of Trinity County. And that is our mission. So thank you for your support today.
Great, Carla. I'm going to keep you there for 1 second. I'm going to treat you as a presenter rather than a public commenter and ask if any board members have questions for you. All right, I'm seeing none, and I will say thank you, and then look to see if there's further public comment.
I have no raised hands, no chats.
All right, we'll close public comment.
Public comment?
Motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by aye. All right, that motion passes unanimously. Carla, thank you, and we will get your signed documents to you by today. All right, we will circle back now and invite Mr. Barker back to the lectern. Thank you for your patience. And I am told that we could just pick up where you left off because your slides were visible. And so with your presentation, we can just move forward.
I'm gonna test your memory. Where did I leave off?
Okay.
I'm not sure. Ashley, let's go to page 5. I just want to reset the table real quick. While she's pulling that up, one thing I wanted to comment on. I primarily call them counties, which is my favorite of the public agencies. I've been to 54 of the 58. I have 4 left. I'm able to check the box today on one of those 4. So now down to Del Norte, Modoc, and Sierra left. So
Nice places to visit.
yeah, exactly. All right, very good. So just as a quick reminder, we talked about this 115 trust, which is like a savings account, and it's outside your treasury. You're in an OPEB only variety right now from 2006, and you're hearing and considering the idea of moving to a new and improved version. I call it a combo trust because it has 2 accounts, one for OPEB and one for pension. So the idea would be to transfer the OPEB assets over to the OPEB account within the combo trust. And then you also get the pension sub account to potentially put money in that account for future pension obligations. Again, no cost to do that on the right It's an administrative move, but would require a resolution down the road if you were to go forward. So Ashley, let's move to page 9. I want to talk about the pension side of the equation. So these are the numbers that came out in August. As you may know, CalPERS reveals their actuarial updates every August. Unfortunately, they're 1 year behind. They've got 4,000 agencies to value. It takes a long time, and they come out 1 year behind. So what we saw last year are the numbers are in that center column there, valuation date as of June 30, 2021. And line 2, the assets went up 21.5%. Why? Because their returns were 21%. So they had a great fiscal year 2 years ago. And so your assets went way up, your liabilities went down. In line 4, your funded ratio went from about 58% to about 68%, 10 percentage points. That's fantastic. Here's what's interesting. Even though with a great return year and your liabilities going down, look what happened to your cost on that employer contribution amount line. It went from 7.4 to 8 million, an 8% increase. So even though it was a very good performance year and liabilities went down, your cost still went up. So the idea is to get this pension account set up, hopefully put money in it in the future so that you are prepared. If costs rise faster than your budget, where can you go to help make up the difference? You can use our pension trust as a safety net tool. How did CalPERS do last year through June 30, 2022? Negative 7.5% return. They had a tough year. Let's face it, everybody had a tough year. Stocks were down, bonds were down. That hasn't happened in 40 years. No one could hide. There was no place to hide other than if you had all your money in money market. But when the new numbers get updated in August, what's going to happen? Unfortunately, your liabilities are going to go back up and your funded ratio is going to go down. So again, getting this pension pre-funding tool will be helpful in the future. Next page. I've got about 15 reasons why it makes sense to pre-fund pension. I'm just only going to touch on 4. 1, local control of assets in the trust. What is your option? The option is to leave them in a general fund. Nothing wrong with that, except it doesn't earn very much. Or you send that extra money to CalPERS. That's not a bad option, but I don't think it's the best option, because if you send the money to CalPERS and you need it back for a tough budget year or an emergency, you can't get it back. Once you send them extra money, it stays there. Pension rate stabilization, number 2. Again, the idea of this concept is to stabilize the process. If you're having a good year, great, you don't need the fund. If you're having a tough budget year or an emergency, you can go to the trust to help stabilize the process. Number 3, it is a rainy day fund. The money's liquid. If you said today, we need the money, it'll be in your account by next Friday. So it's that liquid. And number 4, diversification. If you send extra money to CalPERS, in effect, you sort of put all your eggs in one basket. By putting the money in the trust, you've diversified. Plus, you get a more conservative option. Next page. Speaking of investments, in the center there, we've got 5 investment strategies. You're in the moderate strategy for your OPEB assets. That's about a 50-50 strategy that's earned 5.4% over 10 years versus LAIF, which is a common liquidity management program. The state has earned about 1%, which are similar to most treasuries. So the idea is to earn a greater rate of return, but you control the risk tolerance level. And our portfolio manager would have a meeting in the future to determine, when do you think you might need the money? What is your risk tolerance appetite? What target rate of return do you like to shoot for? So that's what that dedicated portfolio manager is going to do on the right, is to listen and then make a recommendation. And ultimately, the county makes the final call on what the investment decision is. That number 3 bullet point is pretty important, in my opinion. Drafts an investment policy. This has to be a different investment policy than your general fund or your treasury. Why? We're investing in equities. Treasury cannot. So we want to make sure we do the right thing. I mentioned I just moved from Orange County. What happened in 1994 there? Filed for bankruptcy. Largest municipal bankruptcy in the history of the United States. until recently. 2 have been larger since. The treasurer went off into the weeds and was investing in derivatives. Highly speculative, and unfortunately caught up with him, and the county went into bankruptcy. So the key is to create an investment policy that sticks to the fundamentals, using a football term, blocking and tackling. How much in stocks, how much in bonds. And it also has a section that says what they cannot invest in. Guess what? No derivatives, no commodities, no precious metals, no raw land, anything speculative cannot be in your portfolio. So Andrew Brown would put that together. By the way, cell phone access. The market's gone down 1,000 points in a day in the last 6 months. It's nice to have somebody to call to say, what do we do? Is this a buying opportunity because the market went down? Or do we get out because it's so volatile? Or we stay the course because we're able to look long term, which is hopefully the case. But he's dedicated to you. He makes house calls. He's a great guy. Next page. Wanted to share our fee schedule. It's an asset-based fee schedule. So the assets times this fee divided by 12, and it comes out of plan assets. So we're not billing the county. Our fee comes out of plan assets. As we mentioned on a previous page, we have 16 million of your assets in OPEB account. Therefore, you're starting on the 3rd level on the first schedule, and you're starting on the 4th level on the bottom fee schedule. So that means your fees are considerably lower. Any money that you put in for the pension side. And again, in the middle, that's the key. No setup fee to get this new trust up and going and to get your pension account ready. My final slide, and then I'll gladly take questions. Why do this? Why take this step? Well, we got to smooth out pension rate volatility. And this is one way to do it. Number 2, offers a hedge against inflation. We've all seen what that's been like this last year with prices at the pump and the supermarket. Fortunately, due to the Fed raising the rates, inflation has come down some. We don't know what it's going to do in the future, but this is a hedge against inflation. Number 3, you need a financial toolbox. You need all the tools you can get in there to deal with what happens in the future. This is one tool. I highly recommend it. 37 counties have done this before you. I think it's a good idea. So our catchphrase really is prepare today for tomorrow's pension realities, which are liabilities continue to go up, costs continue to go up, and we want to give you something to help deal with that. So that's my presentation today in 2 sections. Love to answer any questions.
I have some that I can read. Ashley, would you bring those slides back up? I think slide 12 with the fees, and you can just speak to it. So that you listed fees per person for the I guess the management folks. Would we look at the combination of those fees?
Correct.
And would it be based on the total combined OPEB and pension funds that were in there? Because you had an amount, assets to 15 million and so forth. That's for the combined amount of money in the trust?
Correct. So you've got 16 in OPEB. If you were to put 4 in for pension, just to make the math easy, that would be 20 million in total assets. So if you had the 15 basis points, the 0.15 for the bottom, and the 0.15 for, the top and the bottom, that would be 0.30%. Yeah.
And I'm used to trust, well, obviously in a different format, but trust usually involve strong limitations on being able to access the money. And yet you're saying we have full control. So are we borrowing money from the trust when we take it out?
No, but good question. Let's go back to that bucket slide, Ashley, which was page 5. All right. Bottom left, anytime access paragraph. Trust funds are available at any time. However, OPEB money may only be used for OPEB, and pension money may only use it for pension. So that's a GASB requirement and restriction.
Okay.
And in the upper right, you see there, OPEB is governed by GASB 75 and pension is governed by 68. So long as we all follow the rules, then those counts as assets, offsetting liabilities on your balance sheet.
And so now you're saying that the money sits in the general fund. Correct?
Any extra money that you might have is currently in your general fund or your treasury, right?
Okay.
So the idea is over time, either if one-time money shows up, for instance, like San Benito County sold a landfill for $3 million. that became their initial funding source into the trust for pension. There's also funding policy ideas. I shared a few of those with Trent at the break. One I like is if there's any surplus at the end of the year, that's not always easy. You take a percentage of that and you put that into the trust fund. That way there's no pressure. If the money's there, great, put it in. If the money's not there, then you obviously can do other things with it. But the money is restricted inside the trust. OPEB for OPEB and pension for pension.
And who is it that you're usually working with from the county to manage this?
It's usually a team of folks. A couple of the large counties, they have a formal advisory board. Contra Costa, Merced have done it that way. You get that way early on. Since then, it's been an informal group. It usually includes CAO, treasurer, and auditor. Once in a while, a one board member might be on that committee as well. Call it a 115 trust committee. So, we love input.
And maybe you already did this from behind the scenes discussions. So would the board need to take an action or to move in this direction if we decided that we wanted to do that?
Yes, if we decide to move our money into this particular trust, that would come back to a board action and a board vote. Yes.
Okay.
And we've talked about that. He's already got examples. The admin piece of that is relatively easy, but it does need to come back.
Okay. And I guess not to put you on the spot since we aren't formally making a decision about this today, it's not on the agenda from that standpoint, but have you and the treasurer actually looked at this and formed an opinion of whether you think we should or shouldn't?
We have not formally done that yet. No.
Okay. That's it for my questions.
Other questions?
Well, I would say have direction to consider this and bring it back for us to make that decision. That certainly what I see, when you take money out of the general fund, it's out of the general fund, and then you are limited to use it for these particular purposes. But the flexibility that this gives you to manage it more effectively, earn more money on it, help us get closer to fully funded, and all that sounds very encouraging.
Yeah, so that's not agendized for any action item at this point. So if you want to just request that it go on to the agenda and go back for discussion as to how you want to proceed.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here and for such great notes to leave us with, and appreciate your time and all of this good information.
Most welcome.
And for your patience.
Can't wait to go back. They want to call you to fish.
Good to hear.
Right, item 1.2, probation, receive a department overview from Chief Probation Officer Ruby Fierro. Ruby, good to see you. Thank you.
You might have a seat over here. Good morning, Chairman Cox, members of the board, Ruby Fierro.
We really need you on this because of the sound.
Is that better? No, if you keep this next, please. Now, I'm pleased to be here today and be able to share with you a bit about probation. And I'm going to start with some overview and then go into some Trinity County specific information. So probation protects the community and supports the court, assists victims, and helps rehabilitate individuals. I'm sorry if you can, thank you. Yeah. We are a connector of services. The image that you see on the right is something that the state association puts out. And it's a visual to show how we connect people that we supervise to the different resources in the community. Within the state of probation, within the first 2 years that somebody is a probation officer, they have about 350 hours of training. And then every year we have to have a minimum of 40 additional hours of training. And the things that we do, it provides an infrastructure that does the critical connections among California courts, our communities. We serve both the state and local services. And Probation officers, we are peace officers under 830.5. As the chief probation officer, I'm appointed by the court. So there's a connectivity between state and local. We can go to the next slide, please. Probation provides a multifaceted integrated safety model through accountability and opportunity to address behaviors of individuals through supervision, linking them to services within the community. In Trinity County, we don't have as many resources as others, so we provide a lot of the resources for individuals internally within our department. And we also connect people to workforce development, substance use treatment, mental health services, family engagement, and education. Stay on that slide, please. And we do all of this through holding individuals accountable through community supervision and also preventing crime by changing criminal thinking. We use cognitive behavioral change treatments for that. We objectively assess law and facts for individuals coming before the court. We try and restore victims by preventing future victimization and rehabilitate individuals with evidence-based strategies to change their behavior. And many of you have seen emails from me. I always have on the bottom of my footer there that accountability, opportunity, and fewer victims. You know, that's the driver of what we do. Yeah. In probation, we supervise adult and juveniles. Within adult probation services, we provide rehabilitation and by identifying their criminogenic needs. And we use assessment tools. There are evidence-based practices and consistent tools that we use to determine what is the best strategy to work with people to help them not commit crimes again. And most of the people that we supervise have committed felonies. And there are some situations where they're misdemeanors within domestic violence or DUIs. And along the bottom there, you see it says pretrial, felony probation, mandatory supervision, post-release community supervision, and reentry. These are all the different adult populations that we supervise. You can go to the next slide. So there's a lot of words on this page, and I'm not going to read them all to you. Within pretrial, this is something that just changed in this last year. Pretrial is, we just started this program in Trinity County last June, and it helps, we do assessments to help the court determine if somebody can be safely released into the community, as well as their likelihood to fail to appear in court. So we provide this tool to the courts to help them make decisions whether somebody stays in custody or not. And some people are released on pretrial monitoring, which we also monitor those people. And some of them might be on electronic monitoring as well. And to give you an idea of what that looks like numbers wise in Trinity County, we have only 3 people on pretrial as of yesterday. But since the program began in July, we have assessed 109 people. And we also supervise people on felony probation. That is an alternative to incarceration. Most people can remember when that was the only population that we supervised in adult probation. Yeah, but that's changed. So it was an alternative to incarceration. What that looks like in Trinity County is today we have 69 people on felony probation. There was a realignment that happened. And so sometimes the state creates laws which changes how things work and create local mandates. So we also now have people under mandatory supervision and post-release community supervision. Mandatory supervision is those people that used to go to state prisons that are now serving their time in the county jail, which is why county jail population had increased. And those people who used to come out on parole, we now supervise. It's called a split sentence. And then there are other crimes in which people still go to state prison, but when they get released, they do not get supervised parole. They get supervised by the probation department under PRCS. Those are what were called the non-nons, non-violent, non-serious, non-sex. So if it was not those types of offenses, they come to probation. So as of today, of those populations, we have 29 people that we supervise. 7 of them are mandatory supervision. That's a smaller group. And then post-release, that's 22 people today. And then it also has listed about reentry. We work with people who are in state prison and in the county jail before they get released. We start doing assessments and planning about where they're going to live. Do they have financial means? And trying to help them be successful when they get released. Because if they are successful, it makes us have a healthier, safer community. Go to the next slide, please. Within juvenile probation services, we work with juveniles throughout the continuum. Their initial referrals come to the probation department and we review them before they go to the district attorney. And we work with youth that are in the community and those that are also in custody. Along the bottom there, you see it says prevention and diversion, supervising and serving youth in the community, foster youth, and then the secure settings. If you could go to the next slide, please. Again, a lot of words that I won't read them all to you. But we do a lot of prevention and diversion with juveniles. And for example, in 2022, we received 34 criminal referrals and we diverted 24 of them to informal probation or our diversion programs. And then we supervise youth that are wards of the court within the community at home. Juvenile probation, the goal is to keep youth safely at home when we can. And today we have 1 youth in foster care that we supervise. We have 13 wards of the court. In general, we have 22 youth that we're working with today between our diversion programs and our wardship. And with foster youth, we also have what are called dual jurisdiction. So we work with child welfare as well and help and share jurisdiction of those kids. And working with youth in secure settings, we have contracts with facilities. We have a contract, our primary one is in Tehama County. We also have contracts with Shasta County, Butte County, and Humboldt County. Humboldt is a newer contract. We've never had a youth there. I put that into place after we had our fires. Was concerned about being able to get our youth over the ridge if we needed to safely. So wanted to be able to go the other direction. So our facility, as you know, is closed. In 2022, we only had 10 youth in custody that year. And as of today, we have 5 in custody, a little bit higher. 3 of those kids are involved in serious crimes with violence and victims. So they'll be in custody for a bit. Okay, next slide, please. And the probation department provides direct court services and reports to the court. So even people that we don't supervise, and really any felony case going through court, we write a report and recommendation on. We do an investigation about the person, the circumstances of their crime, and provide recommendations for the court about what the appropriate sentencing scheme is. And in 2022, we had written 57 what are called pre-sentence investigation reports and 16 supplemental reports. Supplemental reports are typically on those that we already supervise. So there's a lot that goes into that we need to know about the law. And that's part of why there's so much continued training. We already talked about the pretrial program. And with SB 678, that requires us to increase the use of evidence-based practices within our departments and in our recommendations to the court. It is in an effort to reduce how many returns there are to prison. Probation also has a lot of collaborative courts throughout the state. There's collaborative courts that are drug courts, veteran courts, gender responsive, homeless. In our county, we've had a treatment court, or what's also known as a drug court. And that grant is closing. That one's been a little bit difficult to have the right population to come into that program. And what we've discovered is and what's been known by others and more discovered by me having been here a shorter time, is that we're able to be very responsive to the needs of people within our community without having these, formalized courts that a larger county would need. They have larger populations where you need specific days to handle drug court, or specific attorneys that are specializing in, say, a veterans court. In our county, though it's small and we have few resources, we're able to do those things informally and very targeted. That those efforts will continue even without the title of the collaborative court. And we also do reports regarding firearms relinquishment. And there was a law that went into effect in 2018. Certain misdemeanors and all felonies, those people are no longer allowed to possess or have control over firearms. And to give an idea of how that was, we did 60 of those investigations in 2022. Slide, please. This is our mission statement. The Trinity County Probation Department, as an integral part of the justice system, provides direct services to the court, community, and offenders. Our mission is to protect the community, strive to prevent and reduce the frequency, severity, and impact of criminal and delinquent behavior among adults and juveniles who come into the jurisdiction of the probation department, to enforce court orders, promote responsible behavior in offenders, provide information and recommendations to the court, and provide services to victims. Next slide, please. So I tried to give you kind of a higher level overview of what probation does, and it's a lot. There's a wide variety of things that we're responsible for. I thought about putting my department mandates within the slideshow, but in 12 print font on 8x10 is about 30 pages. So what all this means in Trinity County. So my department is made up of 8 line staff deputy probation officers. We've only had 6 for approximately 1 year. We lost 1 to a retirement and 1 has been in military leave. I'll get him back in October. And we have 5 probation correctional counselors. Those were previously utilized within the facility. That classification use was changed to be able to facilitate the programs that we have within our day reporting center. But we've only had 1 person in that position for approximately 2 years. We have 2 managers that supervise and manage the operations while also filling in for line staff. We have 2 support staff that handle the finance, legal processing, the reception, and everything in between. And 1 chief who, in addition to the oversight of daily operations, I'm required to chair 2 state mandated boards and I'm an executive or voting member on 5 other local and state level boards. And we're a small department, and if you're keeping track, we today have 12 people. And we still have to meet all the state mandates and continuously changing laws. And it doesn't matter what resources we have or don't have. And we have to be responsive to laws that directly impact probation. There's a lot of law changes that are targeting toward law enforcement specifically. And we have to also be responsible and responsive to those laws, as well as child welfare laws. And our people have to wear a lot of hats. I've worked in other departments and we would have specialized teams or your group that went to this kind of training. And I am just beyond impressed by what my staff is able to understand and put into place for this county. The breadth of what they have to know is very remarkable. And within our department, we are responsive and have specialized programming at our day reporting center. And we have our cognitive behavioral treatments for juveniles and adults. And I have them listed here. They're forward thinking, victim impact, tobacco intervention, moral recognition treatment. And the day reporting center is also a venue for community service work. It's all organized there. And we have a computer lab for people to be able to use for life skills, job applications, homework. And we also help with homework. And we've had some success with the mentoring program. And currently we are doing what's called Parent Project and helping parents being able to intervene and learn other skills. So none of us are born knowing how to do all of that. And so some extra skills for those higher risk youth. And we've had a school intervention officer in place for the past 5 years. The sheriff's office recently was awarded a grant that also includes a juvenile specialist, deputy probation officer, that will continue to help support the CARES program in the schools. We have to have an officer on call 24 hours, 7 days a week, because of things that could happen at any hour, particularly with our youth. So those 6 line staff cover every hour of every day. And we act as first responders in emergencies. We're law enforcement, but not first responders. And when something's happening, we do respond, and we have the ability and the tools and the know-how. So we step up for them. We also have the treatment court, which I spoke about with the drug court, and within our peer court, which is our courts and our schools are all working together to make peer court successful. And just wanted to highlight a couple of the specialized trainings that officers need to have. We assess sex offenders and we apply the sex offender containment model to those. We have to have specialized training within domestic violence, trauma-informed care, motivational interviewing, evidence-based case planning, and child and family teaming. And those are all things to be able to support people's success. And that's the end of my slides. But I would really like to close with saying we talk about a lot of numbers and a lot of programs and a lot of mandates. But I think one of the most important things to be talking about is that we support people. Everybody is somebody's brother, son, spouse. Some people really need help so that they quit victimizing children. Yeah, and that's where we come in. And my officers do a fantastic job with all the people that they work with. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, Ruby, I have just a couple of questions. One of your slides says that your people wear a lot of different hats, as all the departments do here. Is that because of lack of applicants? Being you put out a fly job, you just don't get enough applications, lack of funding? Or maybe what I've noticed over the last several years is less people actually go to jail. They get on probation, or they get out of jail early and they go on probation. Are you seeing that kind of shift that I kind of see, that a lot of people just don't go to jail as much as they used to before, or they end up on probation? So as a county, are we keeping up with that demand funding wise?
You brought up a couple questions in there. As far as my applicants, I do have somebody in background right now. If that person is hired, I will be fully staffed for my probation officer allocations. There is less applicants for this type of work now. It is harder to get people into what we're seeing statewide is really any public service. And we see it within our behavioral health. We see it within law enforcement. There's just less of a desire for people to want to be into the people service industries. And the funding for my department, I'm always going to say I could use more. But yes, we could use more funding, but that wouldn't give me more allocations at this point unless I came to the board and asked for more allocations.
So overall, are you seeing a larger percentage in the last 5 or 10 years of people that are now not incarcerated but on probation?
Since AB 109 occurred in 2011, it has been a great change in how many people are incarcerated. They are currently in the process of shutting down sections of, I believe it was 7 of the prisons, and I believe they've closed 3 in the last 2 years. the populations are down. State law has changed to make that happen. Many felonies became misdemeanors.
So I guess this is a little off topic, but when they close down Susanville, what happens to all those people? They get shifted to a different correctional facility, they come out on probation a little bit early. Just something I go through there quite a bit, and I know that town's gonna really hurt when they shut that place down.
They've already transferred most of their population. I was just in a meeting where the Board of State and Community Corrections, the Secretary of Prisons came and spoke with us. And she was saying that they have already depopulated that prison for the most part. So that is the early releases and transfers to other facilities.
Thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome.
I just would like to say how much I appreciate the gal that you have up at the high school. Her relationship with the students and just the work that she's able to get done up there. And I see that, the kids around her, she does an excellent job with the high school. So I think that's great.
Yes, thank you. I'll share that with her.
Yeah, she does a great job.
Yeah, I would echo that she works closely with my son, and without her, things just wouldn't happen. She's fantastic. She makes changes up there, and the kids love her. And we were lucky to get another grant to keep her on. I think they're pretty nervous at the high school there, but thanks to that grant, keep her on was fantastic.
I would like to make sure that you understand that it is a different grant, different parameters, and I'll make determinations about who's going to be in that position.
So one more time.
And I'll be making determinations about who's going to be put in the position for that new grant.
As far as personnel,
Yes,
it's the person. It may not stay the same person.
correct.
I was just gonna ask if you give an update about your, I think you called it the parent program or something, but I remember when I was doing the tour, you talked me through this program that was, I guess, call it preventative maintenance a little bit in terms of helping people deal with things so that they don't turn into problems. And you were just getting that going, and
Yes.
you presented a little bit about it one time. Do you have any sort of an update about its success this first round?
We are in week 10. And from what I understand, they've even posted things online about how great they think it is.
Oh, great.
And it empowers parents. When you're talking about, our intersection with youth, we don't want to be raising people's children, and people, don't want us taking their children or having to put them in, either group homes or incarcerated or detained. And a lot of times the parents just don't know what to do. They're at a loss. They're feeling desperate. So what this does is it just gives them more tools that maybe they didn't consider, and it empowers them, and it's going really well.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you. We'll have another group in the fall.
Oh, good. Another for me.
So one more question, because the grant structure for the high school or the schools, enforcement, you mentioned changing the person. Is there different parameters they need to be skilled in now that this person isn't? Because it would seem to me that the morale or the familiarity with students throughout this county, she's built up resources and good insight with those kids and the principals and the kids like my son up there. It would seem that to me that keeping the same person on that's familiar with all the things that go on throughout all these schools that she attends would be beneficial, just because you already have such ingrained knowledge of what's going on there.
I agree that there could be value in that, and I have to be careful about going into depth about personnel matters.
It's just cautious.
But when you talk about, a department, a part of my responsibility is to ensure succession planning, and also other people being skilled in different areas while people are there to support them. I have been in this department for 2 years and have moved several personnel so that there is better succession planning for the department.
I didn't want you to talk about personnel. I just didn't know if the new grant came with different restrictions.
It does have some different parameters And then the position that you're talking about came under the tobacco grant, which is meeting this month. And this one is a marijuana grant, and it has the outlines of what's required in it are slightly different. And the sheriff and I are working together about what the essential duties is going to be of both of our officers.
You're both very much some very, very important position.
Yes, I agree.
Thanks, Ruby.
Ruby, thank you for your work and your presentation.
Thank you.
Great. Item 1.3, transportation. Receive a presentation from Caltrans. We're going to have project manager Robert Burnett with us today. My understanding is he's in Modoc County. And so to speak on the Clean California Monuments for Trinity County, we have Derek Willis today, and he's accompanied by Kristen Robertson. So Kristen, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your patience with us this morning. Glad to have you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairperson Cox and Supervisors. Thank you for allowing me to be here. My name is Derek Willis. I am the Office Chief for Project Management in Caltrans District 2. And so Rob works in the office there, and he was somewhere else. And so here I am today. So the reason for coming here is really just to show you the rendition, and if you have that up, of the monument that we're planning on putting there on the west side of Trinity County. So as you're traveling eastbound, coming into Trinity County, this will be that's the next one. Yes, please, next one. There you go. This is what we're proposing on putting up there. You can see the dimensions on that. And it will be between 30 and 50 feet away from the traveled way, the white stripe. And so it'll be set back, but it'll be quite visible by people. And the other purpose for being here is just to talk a little bit more about maintenance, the maintenance side of things, because I know that's been a big concern. But let me give you a little bit of background, and you may all know it. I've been picking this up as I've been gleaning the information from others, but you know, Governor Newsom had the Clean California Initiative and funding, and that's what drove this. Large part was to out engage with the communities and really work with them to come up with ways to beautify, help out. You know, even litter removal's been going on. We've had some litter removal days here in Trinity County and whatnot. But for the monuments here in Trinity County, we worked with the Arts Council, the Chamber of Commerce, the Norrell Mook, tribe, and the Sonongwe tribe, and obviously I believe we've been here to the Board of Supervisors before also. And then also the transportation side of things. So we've been trying to reach out to the different communities, if you will, trying to represent Trinity County and the different communities here. And so we've developed, actually, this has been a cycle as we develop renditions, working with communities, come back and say, hey, does this work? And so finally we're here. This one was largely with the Norrell Mook tribe, and you can see their basket weave that we have, but also the Trinity County, you know, just letting people know that they're coming into Trinity County. And so once we developed this and we've gone around, we have worked with Panos also, and then talked about the maintenance agreement. So I'll talk about that here in a minute. So our plan here is really we're here just to show you where we're at, what we've developed, and you know, after multiple iterations, and then you know, it's not like we're seeking approval, but we are here together. We're kind of partnering on this, right? This is welcoming people into Trinity County, and so if you say I hate this, then we go, oh, hold on, let's back up. But I think we've worked through that, and so I'm not necessarily looking for the nod of approval, but at the same time, if someone said no, then I'd also take that information too. So the idea is recognizing that the board is in agreement with this. We're planning on what we call ready to list, completing the project by the end of this month, and then moving it out and advertising it for construction. Thinking that probably by the time we get a contractor on, we'll be getting close to this winter. Maybe they have to obtain materials and then probably be constructed probably next spring. That's the thought process. Maybe earlier, but I'm thinking by next spring. So once constructed, moves into the maintenance side of things, and the board, you know, it was just mentioned the struggle to find people, and I think Trinity County, just like everybody else, has struggled to find maintenance folks, and I know Caltrans has too. But recognizing that Trinity County does not want to take that on, Caltrans said we'll take that on that effort. The thought process that it will remain in good shape, but we do want to hold the ability to, if it starts getting tagged and it becomes a big nuisance, a big issue, we're not thinking it will, but if it does, that we say we're going to remove it, right? Because it becomes too much. We don't think it will, but we just want to let people know that again, we have limited forces out there to deal with stuff like that multiple times again and again. But I know Trent asked about what about like the weed eating and stuff like that, you know, just taking care of it. And that would be something that we will be doing. Yeah. Any questions that you have on that?
Yeah. Where exactly will it be placed at?
It will be just this side of the Trinity Humboldt County line, and I believe it's an open spot. Again, I should have this better detail, but I believe it's on the north side of the road. It should be so in a place that's very clear, and I could be wrong about that. I apologize. I should know that a little bit better. But it will be just this side. It's less than a mile away from, I think it's about 0.1 mile, or somewhere less than a mile away from the border, the county line.
So traveling eastbound, it would be on my left, is what you're saying?
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And the reason I'm saying that, because I know there's a big open spot here. That's what I'm thinking that.
That looks great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate the efforts to work with all those groups that you mentioned to try to get input. It's great to see that, and especially appreciate you stepping up for the maintenance. As you said, we're stretched, and so that's great to know that you'll be taking care of it along the way.
Yeah, you know, the goal is to again work with the communities, what's being offered, and I know that's just one part of it, but that's really the goal, is work with people to get something that go, oh, Trinity County, hey, cool, let's check it out. I don't know if that will happen, but you know, the goal is to allow Trinity County to be recognized.
So Derek, you had mentioned that you're still open to comments if somebody had some to make. We don't take public comment during presentations, but if somebody did want to reach out, do you have a means by which they could communicate their thoughts?
Yes, and Kristen has, I think we have your number, or we could provide the number for myself or Kristen.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. More than what.
Right. Well, thank you for being here today. Thank you for this effort, again, for your patience this morning, and it was nice to have you.
Thank you.
All right. All right. I am going to give a closed session report out from our May 16th, 2023 regular meeting. It was item 5.1 on the agenda. Government Code Section 54954.5C, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, number of cases 1, Carlson et al. Versus County of Trinity et al. Trinity County Superior Court case number 20CV136. That item was discussed and direction was given to staff. Right, we will now move into public comment. This time is for information for the public on matters not appearing on this agenda or within the consent calendar. All comments are limited to 3 minutes and must pertain to matters within the jurisdiction of this board. When addressing the board, please state your name for the record and address the board as a whole through the chair. No action or discussion will be conducted on matters not listed on the agenda. However, the chair may refer the subject matter to the appropriate department for follow-up or schedule the matter on a subsequent board agenda. Is there any public comment in the room?
Good morning, Madam Chair, Supervisors Lisa Wright from Lewiston. I will just mention that putting public comment after presentation, I think really thwarts people's ability to participate in our supervisors' actions. And I would recommend that you move that back to 9 a.m. There are many working people who could schedule their time around that, but they can't schedule their time when we have to wait, hours at a time. So I think it's thwarting public comment. But I'm really here to request again that you agendize discussion about the use of cannabis funds for sheriff's operations. Specifically, cannabis fees that are paid to the program must be used for beneficial purposes for program participants. What I'd like to suggest is that you consider creating a task force, or perhaps the existing ad hoc take up the matter to establish a process, a procedure of oversight for the use of funds when involving the Sheriff's Department. What we're seeing currently is questionable. What I would like to see, because the Cannabis Division will issue notices of noncompliance for something that is in violation of 17.43. There's a 7-day notice to comply. At the end of that, if the program participant has not complied, that would be the appropriate time to involve code enforcement in the issuance of a citation at the direction of the Cannabis Division, so that that could now move into the fine status. We don't really need to be funding kind of arbitrary rolling around of sheriff's deputies in the cannabis funded code enforcement vehicle and charging time unless they've been directed to do that through the Cannabis Division. If complaints come in that are specific to 7.43, that should go to the Cannabis Division for their assessment and their process for notifying for non-compliance, the program participant. But funds for our program should not be spent for the enforcement of 17.42, which is the personal grow ordinance. Some controls need to be put in place and a process put in place. I think that Director Plavani has done a really good job of containing some of the costs, particularly associated with the SECR review. This would be another way to contain the costs in a more affordable manner for our program participants and to ensure that we're getting the benefit back for the program participants. I want to stop using the use of a license at the county. That was already established that the county does not have the authority to issue licenses in your TAA settlement agreement. You're not a licensing authority. So we need to move to program participants and permit because they're very distinguishable and different. So please agendize that topic for discussion publicly.
It's usually muted. That's good.
Are we able to change that?
It's because the
Oh.
we have to have the volume on.
All right, any other public comment in the room? All right, any raised hands on Zoom?
I have no raised hands.
All right, with that, we will close public comments.
I got a raised hand. Do you want to take it or no?
Certainly, yeah, okay.
Tom Blanco.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Tom Blanco, Douglas City. I did, before I get into my comments, I did want to just remark on the presentation from probation. As we all know, being a small county, Trinity County often suffers some of the absences of the services that other counties get. We're chronically understaffed. Maybe it's hard to get potholes filled. But our small size gives us some great benefits too. We have the best 4th of July celebrations. We have a great county fair. The chances of getting a supervisor from Orange County to answer your email or phone call is pretty slim compared to us. Another great feature we have is our probation department. Understaffed and overworked as it is, we get actual personal involvement of these officers. And I think it's our small size that allows this personal relationship. I'm almost always on the opposite side of the equation from probation, which is to say I'm defending, we both have the same client, but I'm on the defense side. But we're very lucky to have the probation department we do have. So I just wanted to mention that. On to my comment is regarding the appeals process. And we've talked about this in various iterations. What we're seeing a lot of now is appeals of directors' decisions, most of them, of course, related to cannabis licenses, but we also see them come up for CUPs and other kinds of things. In going to our county code, there are two basic sections that deal with appeals. Section 8.9, which is referenced in the personal grow ordinance and is used for appeals for fines or notices of violations, is very specific with timelines and what is required and when decisions have to be rendered. The appeals that go to the Planning Commission are governed by 17.34, and that doesn't have the same kind of timelines. It does have the 10 days to get the appeal in and then 10 days to transmit to the clerk of the board. What I'm asking for is a timeline that says when those appeals must be heard and a timeline of when the record must be complete, so that we're not ambushing each other on the day of the meeting. I don't know how you might do that, but I would like the board to look into that. Thank you.
I have no other raised hands, no shots.
All right, with that, we will close public comment. And I have my own little point of order. Computers. All right, reports and announcements. We have one report from department heads. Any department heads in the room?
Good morning, Chair, members of the board and staff. Liz Hamilton, Health and Human Services Director and Interim HR Director. So I'm going to do two. Starting with the human resources, I just want to give appreciation to our team. It's a small office responsible for the personnel issues across the county. And I'm thankful that aside from the HR director vacancy that has been due marks 1 year, we have been able to backfill 2 vacancies, a personnel analyst in January, and then our loss prevention risk specialist in April. So from a staffing level, we are fully staffed. Just hoping and encouraging for the director position.
I'm sorry, Liz, was that for the HR department?
HR department. Mm-hmm. Thankful that Becca Cooper, who was our previous position, held the position for loss prevention and risk. She's now with Trindle and she's been offering extensive training to our newest hire. So just thankful for our partnership with Trindle. And also for Susie Hawkins and admin for working with staff and training in some of the systems and administration that happens in that department. Currently for the county, we have 27 open recruitments with approximately 4 offers in a pending status, although we also have potentially 4 more new recruitment requests. So that's a very fluid number. We did make between 6 and 8 offers for employment in May. That's exciting. Our staff did participate in the community employee fair on May 12th, we had 10 very serious applicants of interest. So that was, we consider that a win. We participated in our annual Trindle audit on last Friday, June 2nd. Formal results will be provided in July, but we were given feedback that we did very well. And that focuses on our safety overall in the county with personnel and training in regards to safety, and then leadership training that is required for anyone in a leadership position in the county. They did focus on their 2 policies of interest this year were social media and cybersecurity. And so I'll bring you our audit results in July. And then potentially interest for the county and public, we did receive the funds from insurance needed to begin our work on the bandstand repairs. So looking forward to that. Moving on to Health and Human Services, as you're aware, we have 4 branches within Health and Human Services. So I'll touch on just a couple of things. With Office of Emergency Services, we have completed our annual exercises for the Emergency Operations Center, getting staff revisited, comfortable. Staff really enjoyed. Our CAO attended and got to participate in those trainings, so thank you. And then the 10 bollards that were ordered, and there was a presentation from our manager on that, those will be placed this Friday.
Oh, wow.
In our public health branch, coming to you in July, we finished our community equity assessment, so we'll have a formal presentation on our July 18th date. And then in social services, you received a presentation from Tabitha Albers, our program manager, back in April, talking about the public health unwinding and the impacts to both our CalFresh and Medi-Cal programs. So our team, as of June 1st, they're engaged in the unwinding and working those programs. It's an extensive amount of work, and she laid that out very clearly to you. And I just want to appreciate the staff and the strategy behind, with minimal staffing, how they're meeting those state deadlines. I couldn't be more proud, quite frankly. In social services alone, we have a 33% vacancy rate. In that particular division, we have 3 of 12 employees doing the work of 12. So one of the things that, I'm not going to bring complaints, but we've had a consistent and chronic vacancy rate in social services that is largely due to just lack of competitive wage. And so I have been talking to our CAO about some strategies and things to bring forward to the board, and I will be doing so. Part of that is, limitations on our recruitment, since we are required to have an agreement with the state on our recruitment for that division in particular. So more to come on that, but just for your awareness, I don't think that we have gone below 25% of the vacancy rate. Now we're at 33%. It's devastating to the staff who are there in the extra work that they're carrying, but they do it without complaint, and they do it for the good of the community, and their hearts are in the right place. And so just want to bring that to you. So that's it for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any department heads on Zoom? Ed?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good morning, board. Thank you for allowing me a couple of minutes here to speak to you. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Supervisors. I just wanted to share some really encouraging good news, and that is that I'm sure you're aware we've been flying position for an associate planner. We had a really positive interview, and the applicant accepted the position as associate planner here in the planning department. So he is currently in the live scan phase, which is also good. And we will be helping him get housed and get up here to Trinity County in as short an order as we possibly can. So that is it for my update this time. I just wanted to share that because I would be remiss if I didn't share the great news that we're experiencing right now.
Nice. Thank you. Appreciate knowing that, and congratulations.
Drew?
Good morning, Chair, Supervisors. Drew Plabani, Trinity County Planning Department Cannabis Division Director. I just wanted to share some quick licensing stats updates with you all. We have currently received a total of 422 Appendix C documents. And of that 422, I am happy to say that we have successfully sent 390 of them through the technical review process, which amounts to 92% of all projects. So a year ago, we started with roughly a 400 project backlog. So we have continued to make significant strides in the direction of having these projects and their environmental documents reviewed. Related, we also, as of today, now have 161 active small cultivation licenses. And let's see, 229 Appendix C documents that have been noticed and sent to the paper. So that's it for me.
229?
Yes, 229.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Drew?
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you.
I have no other raised hands.
All right. Report from County Administrative Officer, CEO.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair. As directed at the 15 May Board of Supervisors meeting, the County Council evaluation process summary is now complete. The entire annual process is now documented, and the process will be followed for future evaluations. All documentation on the process will be maintained in HR. The new Loudon Park Children's Playground equipment has been installed by General Services and was open for use this last weekend. Hopefully get a chance to get out there and see it. It's a nice new playground. Some unfortunate news, our Housing and Grants Division, Susie, has accepted another position outside of the county, and we'll be losing her, but we're working some transition actions with an anticipated completion date of end of June.
All right.
I received a demonstration on GoGov. It's an app-based platform for communication between county departments and the public. Items like complaints, potential code violations, road closures, general notifications to the public are all managed and tracked within one platform and one source of information. As a staff, we're going to be reviewing that and looking at potential usages. And then during the preliminary budget adoption process, we'll formalize that. It's actually my interpretation for the potential benefits of it is a relatively low cost. And there's a lot involved with what we could use it for from a whole of county perspective. But if we go that way, we will need some help and emphasis as far as the marketing part with constituents, but I think we can get there. We've been working with staff on the allocation of the local assistance and travel consistency funds. I've got a consolidated list, and it's all different categorized. Worked with the product that Letty and Liz put together. I'm very grateful for the efforts that they put together there. We'll discuss this as a staff later this week at a department head meeting, and then also through the budget allocation process. The plan is to actually get those funds allocated and approved by the board to actually go out and start spending some of those. So late June, early July, we should be able to start allowing departments to spend some of this money. But we'll bring that formally to the board. That's all I've got for today.
All right, thank you. All right, report from supervisors.
Can I just one comment, Trent, back on that? So I know from an economic development standpoint, some of the work we've been doing with the TOT funded partners and so forth, there's been some discussion about potential requests for some of those funds. So what would be the best way for that request to be incorporated into the discussions that you're having before it's presented to the board?
If you just want to send me the details, and I'll get it on the big spreadsheet that we've got.
Thank you.
Go from there.
Start out. All right. Let's see. I went to Williams on the 17th of May for a meeting of the Colusa Glen Trinity Community Action Partnership. Some things to bring back from that. Trinity County has 2 vacancies on that board at this point. From category 2 and category 3 positions. So not the electeds, but the category 2 is economically disadvantaged, and category 3 is representative of private enterprise. So if any of you know anyone that's interested in that, you can send them my direction. I can get them plugged in with somebody so they can get on that board if they show desire. Other than that, not much to report, except that our next CAP board meeting will be in Weaverville. So an opportunity for people from Trinity County to see what goes on there.
What's the date?
Let me look at the calendar. I believe it's the 19th of July. Find the calendar. And the spot is still not set in stone. So if you want me to keep, yeah, it's July 19th. It's a Wednesday. So if you want further information, reach out to me and I'll try to give it to you when I get it.
What's the organization name again?
Colusa Glen Trinity Community Action Partnership. And there is some, if anybody's interested in the weatherization programs and stuff, or have any constituents that would like more information, feel free to reach out to me. I can try to get them in contact with the right people. There is money available still for the weatherization program projects, and still some funding for utility help, stuff like that.
Would it be possible for you to make just a kind of a brief synopsis of the types of things this particular board deals with that we could send out to constituents, just so they have a general idea of what the invitation really would be for? I know how difficult it can be to get people to join these and how important it is that we fill our seats at the table. And I figured if we can just send them a little bit of information that might spark some interest.
I'll try to do that, and if I don't get it to you, remind me.
Okay. All right, Supervisor Leibauer.
Okay, out of county travel, I was in Reading for a SCED, it's an Economic Development Board meeting on May 18th, and in Anderson for a NORTEC committee meeting yesterday. From an airport advisory committee meeting, I'm working with Trent and Panos about setting our first meeting of the year. We had been planning for May, we weren't able to make that, so we're still trying to set our first date. With NORTEC, I was asked to join a committee, then put as chair, and then asked to facilitate committee meetings. So I've gotten quite involved in that organization as one of the newer members of the board. With the Sierra Nevada Conservancy, I participated in a pre-board meeting because our position is not a voting board position. So we do have a pre-board meeting where we're able to weigh in and give feedback to the person who does represent the counties. And so that was good. And I've reached out to Kelly Sheen with RCD and with Nick Gillette with the watershed so that those folks can provide input to me, since they're far more knowledgeable about that arena than I am, so that as we go into future meetings, I'll be able to carry their knowledge and suggestions. With Frontier Communications, continue to experience challenges. And so I reached out once again to the CEO, and we did get some follow-up responses, but I know we still had some issues both with the sheriff's office getting the communications back up from an emergency operations standpoint, as well as some ongoing challenges with residents not being able to get their services fixed even after many requests. So we just continue to stay on that, and hopefully we're making some level of progress. And then I just wanted to highlight, the board recently approved waiving of some fees for dumpsters for the Lewiston subdivision community plan to clean up. And that work has already been underway, and They were already reporting that 9 of the vehicles have been removed. All the appliances and stuff that was in the alleys blocking the way have been removed. And so they're going into the next steps, which are, I guess we get to urging people that have still not removed vehicles so that we can get their approval to move them, or might end up in trying to get citations for them because there is a true health and safety challenge with those. But it was really encouraging to see that a lot of action has already been taken based on the vote that we approved. So thank you.
All right, Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
I had no out of county travel. However, I was busy in county. I had the opportunity to do part 1 of a tour with our CAL in the most western part of my district. And while on that, we met with our volunteer fire department chiefs in Sire and Hawkins Bar and looked at a few concerns that the folks in the Western County have regarding water districts and the ability to pump water from the river during power outages, and just some of the other concerns that we have, including Frontier not being able to get the dispatch calls to our volunteer fire departments. That's still a concern. And then just here in the last week, I've gotten in multiple requests from citizens regarding the fact that Frontier has now dropped their communication in Burnt Ranch region, especially. So then this struggle is I would say reaching a point where it has to move from struggle into some greater. I believe I would like to actually agendize the idea of having a closed session meeting, looking at what we can do from a county's perspective and applying some real pressure on this company to provide the services that they have contracted to do. We are now in a place where it's increased danger to our communities, and especially in Western County. The river from Pigeon Point to Sire is some of the most rapid river lengths in our county, and we have no landlines in a lot of places, no ability to get dispatch, and we will be suffering significantly if we lose a life because of lack of communication. So I think I would like to ask for that. In regards to I had the opportunity, along with 2 other supervisors, to participate in the Memorial Day reading of names in Hayfork and High Palm. That was very moving. I was grateful for that invitation. And it was just really quite a wonderful time to take the time to honor those who give us the freedom and protect the Constitution and who protect our nation. I also had a meeting with the Private County Project with our CAO to meet with them, talking about some of the projects that they have funding for and the networking that needs to continue between our county Department of Transportation and the Private County Project. Spent some time in conversation with the folks from the Prescribed Burn Association working on community resiliency. And what else did I do? Received a lot of emails. So thank you for letting me share my work.
Can you explain RCAO? I'm not familiar with that one yet.
No,
RCAO. I'm really not familiar with that. Okay, I thought this was a new one that I had to catch up.
And I did also attend our Trinity County Collaborative meeting and did a brief presentation and reiterated our desire as a board to be part of the Trinity County Collaborative and their efforts.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Coogan.
So I was lucky enough to be with Annie and Heidi on Memorial Day in Hayfork, where we read, I think it was 400 names of the veterans of all wars from people from Hayfork, which is amazing that there's that many people. So it was a great honor again to do that. And then Heidi went on to High Palm and did more of it. So it's always a lot of fun. It's kind of heartwarming to see those folks out there, and for us to be able to do that is an honor. On the 24th, I had a meeting with Patrick Flynn, myself, and a couple of folks, Mike Dixon from TRP, Junior River Restoration Program, on their budget, and we went over that and some of the things they're going to spend money on this year, what they may not do this year, push off till next year. Their budget's going to be about 11 something million this year, which is a little bit under average, I guess. So that went pretty well. We still have a few things to talk about in that respect, but I thank Patrick for being there with me. He's often big help. The next day, we had the refinements meeting with Chad Smith from the Headwaters Corporation, and it had to do with the Word document. So in this refinement deal that we went through with the Headwaters Corporation, there was a science advisory side, which I was on. And then there was a Word document side that actually Keith Groves was on. And then he left that when he left his position here. So I'm kind of trying to take over a little bit on that side, but he was into it for about a year and I was on the other side of it. So it's been a little tough. So I'm just catching the tail end of that. And hopefully that'll be a living document here pretty soon. And then tomorrow, I had to Blue Lake for 2 8-hour days with TMC to go over a ton of stuff, which are, these next 3 meetings, June, September, and December, will be the most important meetings that we have with TMC in this county. So they're going to be very important, and I'll be keeping my eye on a few things that will be very, very important to our county. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. I have no out-of-county travel to report. Moving on to our ad hoc reports. Anything from our water ad hoc?
Just meetings tomorrow for 2 days.
Right. And from our cannabis ordinance ad hoc?
Dan, I just have our weekly meetings continue. We did take 1 week off just so the division could work on some of the deadlines that were coming up, but we're back to our weekly meetings, and our discussions have included everything from stacking, opt-outs, overlays, setback, buffer zones, medical, marijuana, retail, caregiver. It's a broad range of things that are associated with all the ordinances. And so the discussions keep going, just basically trying to work through all the various things that need to be addressed when we bring forward proposed updates. So we will keep you informed as we progress. Anything else on that?
I don't think we really have we haven't made any real solid progress that we need to report out at this point. I think it's everything's still in works at this point, but we're still chugging forward, and hopefully we have a product to present soon.
In that list of bullet points that you said you're discussing, is there a margin with what we have discussed as a board that falls within the purview of this ad hoc to pull in the items that were requested by our public comment today? Or is that something that we need to have another conversation about how we address and potentially agendize that conversation?
Are you referring to the planning commission appeals?
No, prior to that, how we deal with funding that goes to how it gets allocated.
I think we could, to a certain extent, we could discuss how that would be. It is addressed in ordinance that the sheriff's department will be used for. So we could look into it somewhat. I don't know if we could address all of the concerns of our commenter, but we can. And we actually, I think, have had some conversation regarding that and how code enforcement is going to be addressed or not addressed in our ordinance revision. So
could I ask that you deal with the parts that you can, but how you feel, and then elevate to further conversation what we should do in order to satisfy the other concerns that are there?
Yeah. We can add that to our list.
Okay, thank you. All right, for economic development, Rick, I'll let you take the lead on that.
Okay. The TOT funded partners continue to make progress toward a more unified, impactful approach. I think there's actually been a lot of forward progress there. Several of those folks also recently met with another group the discussion was all around tourism. And so we're talking about how we can make a bigger impact on tourism, again, by working together more effectively. I was able to reach out to members of staff and other elected officials to get information. And so we now have a 5-year view that is either monthly or quarterly, depending on what that information is available from. But it shows us our TOT income on a quarterly basis over the last 5 years, and shows us the gas and sales tax on a monthly basis over the last 5 years. And so we're trying to use that to establish somewhat of a baseline, with the idea that if we are able to have impactful efforts to support tourism, that we should see a change in those. And the reason for looking at it as fine a detail as we can, monthly or quarterly, is to see if there are seasonal changes that we can make, because we all know that most of our business and tourism and so forth comes in during the summer. But if we can, on the quote shoulder seasons, the spring, fall, and so forth, generate more tourism, more heads in beds, more spending of gas and sales tax, then that would be an indication that we're making progress. So it was great to get that information. My appreciation to Trent, to the team that pulled that information together. We also have seen some outside interest in the work we're doing to organize and coordinate our efforts. I've mentioned before that we have this database in the works by an individual, and he provided a template or a form for people to use in providing suggestions on things that we might consider regarding economic development priorities. And I think we had 6-7 different responses to that, which was great. In the background, we're continuing to work on that database, and discussion about that database triggered some interest from groups outside of Trinity County who are involved in economic development. So I think it's just another good example of the work that we're doing here is giving people attention, which I think will help us when it comes time to try to get our hands on money that's available. And related to that, we have Nick, who is in the watershed group, is on the steering committee that is involved in the allocation of the SURF funding. Basically, this is the $5 million that will be allocated to help flesh out plans that then later would be put forward to help get a share of $300 or $400 million to implement those plans. And so he is on that steering committee. He is not able to attend the next meeting. So he worked out with that group so that I can attend it on his behalf so that we don't go without representation. So that's on June 28th. I'll be participating in that meeting.
Rick, I got a couple of questions there.
Mm-hmm.
If we have, we'll say, a off year here in Trinity County with heads and beds, gas taxes and all that, just my side of things, I see a couple of things that stand out that could be non-beneficial to the county as far as lake level. Whatever variable flows cost us a lot of money this year, and we are having a complete closure of the salmon season this year. There will be no salmon fishing from at all this calendar year. I would assume that we receive less income from heads and beds, gas taxes. How bad? And it's going to be in the millions for sure. What does that do to the economic activity folks? And I think it's going to be a tough year.
Well, I think our focus is really, even though there are so many moving parts, as you allude to, with what's going on in the rivers, the lakes, the fires, all kinds of things that can affect the traffic, if you will, in and out of the county and people staying here and spending money. What we're trying to do is say, let's at least have a benchmark. Let's at least see where it is. And then let's see what we can do to influence it. Understanding that if we see the numbers go up, we can't just unilaterally decide that that's because of something that the groups did, but at least we can track when we were really heavily promoting something. If we see some sort of bump, we can have another measure of people actually coming here because of the work that's being done. But it won't be black and white, it'll be pretty gray. And yes, I think there are always some challenges that get thrown our way. And as you mentioned, the fishing, the water levels. Again, hopefully we'll have a mild fire season, but those things all play into it in a big way. And this group, I think, just looks at it and says, well, those things are going to happen regardless. What can we do to make the most of our situation? And then we'll looking for different ways that we can try to measure that impact.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, it is 12:20 and we will take a 40-minute lunch break and come back at 1 o'clock. Non-controversial matters that will be acted upon and ask board members if they have any items they wish to pull.
Yes, I have 3.3.16.
Tyler.
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter Harris. Supervisor Frazier.
A certainly support anything that will help us with economic development. I am concerned about the impact of this. So I wanted to better understand the reasoning behind this.
Input from the fishermen. Just as severely as the guy out there, the commercial fishermen in the ocean.
What we are proposing to endorse via letter was specifically voted down by the commission. Hope of getting something approved, probably should ask for something at least a little different than what they already voted on to say no. So and then they assume that this is a 62-day window. And if there were 100 people that came to these, I'm just having trouble saying it's an endangered species that season, and let us take one each and be different than every part of the rest of the state.
Can I make a comment just on the process and regulation?
Daily and weekly allotment, so we'll say one fish limit per day.
Your concern about that is not as great as the potential economic impact.
It's no fishermen and those rate levels. So I don't think the impact of on real recreational fishermen.
Then, much like we have public comment, things can move and gel up and take shape in a different format and river and be on the river, the more voices the river has. And so when you allow people to interact with the river, in whether it's fishing or recreating, the more people are going to take interest in the management and the maintenance of these species. And two, that's where the money comes from in a lot of ways, is through those purchases to fish.
Thanks. Trying to lean for that. I just wanted to make sure, based on feedback I was getting, I had the rest of the conversation before I was comfortable being retired. That was great.
You might be in that 25-30% range. And I'm just saying kindly, you might be a lot less than that. But it certainly is not 100%. You know, the trickle over effect of what it does to the economics here. But I would love the spring salmon fishery
Necessarily,
We would say potentially,
which happens whether I want
that opportunity. So times again by just the amount of fish caught is not a risk catching fish. So catch or not catch, you're spending the same amount of money Trinity County.
so coming from being the mom of a fishing and hunting collaborative, my estimation on a day out, whether it's to go hunting or to go fishing, is probably within the $500 mark. By the time you fill your truck up with gas and you buy snacks and you get coffee and you grab those things that you always get at the local gas station, and then you spend the day on the river and you grab food when you get in, and then you set yourself up if you're staying the night in a hotel here. At what, $140 a night, maybe. And so, yeah, you're looking at an easy $500 a day per fisherman, probably per if you were paying for guide service or, you know, any of those types of things. So
And again,
anywhere between $500 to $1,000 a day.
And I'm not arguing there's not a financial impact. I just can't make 5 million work in my brain. But
Trinity County in 2022. I would think that it wouldn't be a stretch to say that $5 million impact for fish. I'm not sure what percentage. You're right, it's hard to pinpoint an exact number. During the river, you have a different time frame. So yeah, you could say 60, which is 62 days, and you could say 77 days, I guess, or 75 days.
I mean, I think mean, I think I've heard people say that perhaps that the language was significant financial impact. I don't have
People spend when you guide, including your guide fee, the travel fees, stuff, they spend hotels, drinks, sodas, all that kind of stuff. And even back then, when we were charging not a lot, maybe $250 to $300 a day, it was still started, $600. Leo's family comes up and they spend 4x. So, I see what you're trying to say, and I'm not going to put a number to it. I just really don't think that,
Probably posed and answered. Is there any public comment in the room? Meeting on Zoom?
I have no raised hands, no job.
Okay, great. So we'll bring it back to the board, and I think I would ask if somebody would care to put a motion on the table.
so I would put a motion on this, take it out and put
Analytics to see if you could.
Is in
variation.
From high end, it could cost 5 million. At the low end, it might be 3.9.
right, and that's what.
And again,
That we're in this comment period window. When we're sending a letter, if we choose to, because when I consider, like, just in my head, the size of kind of our basin, our area versus the larger look at California generally, other people may, in my head, look at that and go,
Significant impact. Both organizations and or individuals that put in public comment, it may.
and again, and Humboldt's, just those two counties put in the letters.
of the
Subsequent.
competing motion, the subsequent motion. Could we fix the word country to say county? That Trinity County is the county of origin.
Okay.
Yeah.
And could we also add a couple to keep that sentence intact?
I would be willing to do that.
It's late tonight, those might change, right?
It is my name on the letter. Businesses and after sale. Thank you.
Oh, economic impact.
Catastrophic, let's see where I'm at. Causing catastrophic, potentially causing catastrophic economic loss.
The motion. All right.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Which one?
So we will get back quickly and fix them. That way she could move them forward today. The minutes for it's the closed session item on the left. Closed session item 6.2. It says motion Keith Groves, second Jill Cox carried. To my recollection, what happened was that the motion was to deny. So I think it should say that, and then it should say ayes were. So again, I would move to approve the minutes as amended.
And I will second.
Right. Motion by myself, second.
Supervisor Frazier.
Aye.
Chairman Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Litwiler.
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan.
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Aye. All right, item 3.16. Sheriff, pursuant to Trinity County Code Section 2.60.410A, authorized hiring candidate number 4505. I'm the wrong one, I'm sorry. 3.16. Approve amendment number 1 to the agreement with Enterprise, adding for the lease of vehicles for the Trinity County Sheriff's Office, additional $50,000 for.
Yes, and actually, the sheriff and I had a chance to talk during one of the breaks, so I have a little more information. When I read this, I saw a couple of different things here. At least that's the way I interpreted it, especially in reading the recommendation where it said denial would leave the sheriff's office process of managing the fleet in the same predicament, and so on and so forth. So I felt like, oh, okay, words is protected, if you will. And then there seemed to be a separate item of, at least it appeared to me, that it was asking for $50,000 for an additional vehicle to be added. And in the midst of us going through budget meetings and talking about DOT having to retire vehicles and everything else, I just wanted to make sure if we're making those kind of decisions, we understand that. And again, the sheriff was able to explain some of that to me, so I had a better understanding. But since we're bringing it up, I'll let you enlighten everyone.
Well, Supervisor, if your question is number one about the contract, I have ASO Jill Lynn on the line on Zoom. She can answer your question with regard to contract. Jill, if you're available. Supervisor, specifically your question about the contract.
Well, I was just reading that it basically made it sound like first, and then there was the adding one vehicle. So I just wondered, those two parts is what I'm looking for clarification on.
Muted, Jill. Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Right?
Yeah, it's on loud. Try
Well, in that
again.
case, I could probably speak to the fact that she told me earlier that
Yeah.
this really is not anything new to the contract. This is an existing contract. What this does is it adds a vehicle that we previously had on the contract that actually any transfer using their personal vehicles. They subsequently found the 2020 Sierra pickup truck, and they asked us if we would like to still purchase that under the or lease at price. And the vehicle, when they found it, had something like 68 miles on it, or less than 100 miles on it. We obviously agreed to go ahead and take that under the contract. Because of supply chain issues and so on and so forth, the vehicle is almost ready for us to get. So we did the budget adjustment prior to get this into the budget. So now this is just asking for approval to go ahead and add that to the contract.
And then I think you were indicating that this was originally in the budget for the sheriff's office for this vehicle, and it's basically now just
at the beginning of the year, correct?
Putting it back in, if you will. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying earlier and again now, and appreciate the clarification.
Right.
Jill shook her head yes at everything he said.
Thank you, Jill. I appreciate that.
How long did you?
Originally they thought it was stolen, but apparently it was transferred to a different dealership, and they just didn't know it was over there.
To the point of our.
Drew, are you available to say hi? Ed? Susie?
Can you hear me?
Yep. Thank you.
I can hear you just fine in my office.
Perfect, thank you. All right, any other questions for the journal? With that, we will open public comment. Any comment in the room?
Make a motion to approve 3.16 as stated.
Second.
All right, motion by Supervisor Gogan, second by Supervisor Lutweiler.
Supervisor Lutweiler?
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan?
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris?
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier?
Aye.
Chairman Cox?
Aye. Right. Item 3.19. Department 1854, increasing transfers out by $60,000 and approve a budget adjustment for fiscal year 22-23 for Airport Operations Department 1852, increasing expenses of $32,000. No impact to the general fund. Current cash balance in Airport Special Aviation Fund 154 is $253. Current cash balance in Airport Operations
should be on one.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you. All right, I believe Supervisor Lutwell has a question.
Yes, actually, when I looked at this, I recalled that we have yet to have a airport advical minutes. We don't have minutes from our most recent meetings, and I don't have any document that tells me what the committee is really supposed to do. But when I looked at some historical committee minutes, they referred to discussion about things like this. And so it just raised a red flag to me that we are without the committee's input. moving forward. I don't have any problem with what I see being done, but I'm just concerned, or is there any concern that we are acting inappropriately without the input from the committee? And because I don't know enough about the committee, I don't know if there's a problem or not, but that's why I wanted to at least have a discussion.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't attend in person year before. Sometimes it is a year and a half before. We are probably 50% sure of what's going to happen. And most of the time we think nothing is out of the ordinary is going to happen. Everything is going to be as we planned. Unfortunately, we're correct about 50% of the time. In this case, airport that cost some money. In addition to that, an air conditioner unit that's very specialized had to be replaced. We also had, going back to the changes with respect to operations, rates, and so forth. However, at this stage, we're looking at an existing budget that was approved. We do have no, we do not have minutes. We have a list of people who attended, but that's
meetings. I do recall discussing gate. I do recall discussing the weather operations equipment. The vegetation, I would have to look back at that if that's helpful.
Thank you. So in fact, what we're saying is that because the committee from the previous year's committee had reviewed the budget, which included these projects and approved it, I think, it's in your recollection, that then we're okay.
Planned with respect to replacing weather systems. When they break, we have to replace them. When an air conditioning unit breaks, we have to replace it. We can't wait until the budget time. But last time, I believe we knew of their issues, so we spoke about them.
And Director Caucus, just for clarification, I don't recall going over exact budgets. My observation, and I served on that for 2 years, but we only had, I believe, 2 meetings. It's an advisory group, correct? And
yes, that's correct.
It would really rest with you, or at that time it was staffed out within your department.
That's correct. It was staffed out.
Okay, so that and that's helpful because that's one of the things I haven't been able to find anything that says what is the role of the advisory committee. We just advisory. We do this so that we have the benefit of their input as the director takes action on behalf of the community. Then okay, then certainly I don't have the at least legal concerns, and then it's still we should be getting the input. I know we're moving towards that. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions of board members? All right, with that, we'll open public comment. Any in the room and any on Zoom?
I have no raised hands.
Okay, we'll close public comment, bring it back to the board. Motion.
I move that we approve as submitted.
I would second.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Lutweiler, second by Supervisor Gogan.
Supervisor Gogan.
Aye.
Supervisor Lutweiler.
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier.
Aye.
Chairman Cox.
Aye. Right, item 3.20, adopt a resolution approving the fiscal year 23-24 listed projects work plan for funding from road maintenance and rehabilitation account RMRA. $2,457,137 in revenue to Department 8105-RMRA. Supervisor Lutweiler.
Yes, let me pull up the piece so I can look at the language. But my question surrounded that by reading this, it appeared we were saying the work that we decided to do based on the Regional Transportation Plan Initiative, the funds that were going to go to that are going to now go to fix or to address projects that are to fix problems caused by our recent storms. What wasn't clear to me is that the money for the next year? Is that we're having to do? And I get that we have to do it because we have
RMRA, that means the Repair, Maintenance, Rehabilitation Act, or also known as Senate Bill 1, SB 1. Back in 1994, when they set the gas taxes, they set them at 18 cents per gallon. Since then, gas taxes have not moved up, regardless of what the cost of living is. But again, they're set per gallon of gas. In 2010, we found out people drove just about twice as many miles, and we sold a lot less gas forth. And since the gas tax was based on the gallons sold, the County Engineers Association, in conjunction with the League of Cities and CSAC, were able to lobby the legislature to add an additional tax on gasoline to make up for that deficit, strictly for the repair and maintenance of existing facilities, nothing else. That gives us about 1/4 of that we have. The projects that are listed in the regional transportation plan, they're two different types of projects. The regional plan has new projects or reconstruction of new facilities or replacing existing bridges. SP for that year for the upcoming funds. We usually get about $2.4 million a year for repairing the existing facilities. Since we had a large cost outlay for Canyon Creek and some other damaged roads, we decided to use those funds for that purpose, which means we're not going to be able to fix potholes or do other needed repairs because we don't have the funds. And before we can use those funds for what they're usually intended, which we had a plan for, to do some maintenance, we have to switch that and also use new funds as they're coming in for using them as matching funds for all the damage we had in our roads. And just as FYI, we have approximately $42 million worth of damage. 12 of that is in 2023, and our 2023 estimate has not finished because we're still wear and tear.
Okay, and is that, Panos, is that 1 year's worth of funding approximately?
At this stage, 1 year we get about 2.4 million. We have about $5 million, our preliminary estimates for local matching funds, just to fix the damage that we have. But again, what the regional transportation plans has nothing to do with RMRA. The regional transportation plan is used for us to compete for projects through Caltrans with federal funding.
Right. Okay. So we're going to pull in this available 2-point-something million. You need another 2-point-something million to be the matching funds of the 40+ million.
As we construct each project, we're going to be reimbursed depending on the type of project. If it's FEMA declared emergency, we have to pay about 7%. If FEMA did not declare it was just Cal OES, then we have to pay 25%, just like Canyon Creek is going to cost us $1 million worth of county matching funds. If it's federally highways type of damage is going to cost us about 12%. But that means 12%, 6%, 25% of local funds. And those are the funds that are used through the RMRA, that we receive through RMRA. The regional transportation plan projects are separate. We get federal funds specifically for those projects.
Right, I get that. I'm just trying to make sure I know what numbers we're talking about and what its impact is. So it sounds like there are 2 5-year plans, the regional transportation plan, and then there's this other plan. And this other plan is about more normal road maintenance. And the money that we had set aside for that for the next year is all going to be put instead towards supporting these major projects, so that any of those sort of things that we had anticipated working on this year in the next 12 months, whatever, won't be worked on. I'll stop there. Is that correct?
That's correct, because you only have so much money. If we have to spend it for damage repairs.
And so then the other question is, when people, I know when you and I spoke before, when I asked, when people are complaining about road things and they got the potholes and so forth, and you pointed me towards the form online that can be used to report, including images, everything else. So when those folks are turning in those kind of everyday things. So I got this pothole by me on this road and so forth. Are those also things that basically we need to acknowledge that we're saying we won't have the money for a year, or is that still yet another bucket of money?
That's through the same bucket of money through our MRA or HUDA funds. And also the HUDA funds are separate bucket of money. That's the original 18 cents. You get about 2 million of that a year that you pay for snow plow salaries, maybe buy equipment. The RMRA funds can't be used to purchase equipment, and most of our equipment is not able to operate more than 200 hours or 2,000 miles for certain piece of equipment. So yeah, we have three different pots. One is federal, the RTPA, the original transportation plan. We have to compete for those, and those require some local match that you can use the RMRA funds. The other part is a HUDA, the highway users tax that we use to pay salaries and buy equipment.
Okay. And just there, you know, for you also, Trent, I just want to make sure we have a correct messaging out to our folks, because I've had a number of people contacting me recently, including up north where we had damage on the roads up there in Coffee Creek and otherwise. I think what I'm taking away, and I just want to make sure I'm clear, is the message to folks would be, unless there is some significant health and safety risk, road maintenance is going to basically be put on hold while these funds are used for these very significant storm-related projects. Is that fair?
I'd say that's an accurate statement. I would probably use the term that those road maintenance needs will compete with other priorities that have been created by our storms. So it's a priority. It's a it's each project and each need is going to compete for the limited funds that we have across the whole county. Okay.
So I still must be misunderstanding, because I thought this was specifically saying take all this money and put it towards those projects.
Well, not all of it.
Okay.
He's taken 2.457 of it, and Pano said there's about 5 or so in that pot that usually comes in, but it fluctuates based upon actual gas tax, actual numbers that we get, but that's usually what his budget is for that. And right now he's asking for the 2.4.
Thank you.
So just for my clarity, he's going to prioritize the construction work needs to be done on the roads as needed, I guess. With the money that he's asking for now and the money that he has already. Okay.
Yes, that's correct. We have to repair some road. Has been closed completely. Those people need to have access. We need to use that money to be able to go in and repair those roads so people have access to their homes. And that means we can't do maintenance for small potholes. We can only have so much money.
Okay, any other questions for Director Focus? All right, with that, we will open public comment. Any in the room? Any on Zoom?
I have no raised hands.
All right. With that, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve as submitted.
Oh, second.
Motion by Supervisor Lutweiler, second by Supervisor Gogan.
Supervisor Gogan.
Aye.
Supervisor Lutweiler.
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier.
Aye.
Chairman Cobb.
Aye. All right, we are going to take a 5-minute break and then we'll move into our public hearings. So that will be at 2:09. Right, it is 2:10. We're back in session. We are at public hearings, Trinity County Transportation Commission, item 4.1. Conduct a public hearing to receive comments on unmet transit needs as required by the Transportation Development Act. We have with us our, Sarah, lost your title, Transportation Planner, Sarah Sod. Welcome. Thank you for being here. The floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon, Chair, Supervisors. I'm a Transportation Planner for DOT as well as the Transportation Commission. And I just want to make a few brief comments regarding the unmet transit needs process. So this process is required by the Transportation Development Act, and it's mandatory to receive local transportation funds as well as state transit assistance funds. Several notices of the process were posted in Trinity Journal, in our buses or Trinity Transit buses and bus stops, as well as the commission website. As of today, no letters or emails from the public regarding any unmet needs has been made. On April 27th, there was a Social Services Transportation Advisory Council meeting. After some discussion, the council found that they would like to recommend to the commission that there were no unmet transit needs that were reasonable to meet in Trinity County. Any public comments made today will be analyzed to determine if they're reasonable to meet. And I will return on the 20th with a final resolution that would determine if there are or are not any unmet transit needs that are reasonable to meet. So that's all I have for you today.
All right, very good.
Sarah, is this why you're there? How often do you do this?
It's annually.
And
yeah.
And is it pretty normal that we don't get any input?
So what I've been told is the last couple of years it's been one or two. And this year, unfortunately, we didn't have anything. Trinity Transit did pick up back to 5 days, and it seems like that was the main thing that they wanted the buses to run 5 days to Reading and Willow Creek. So now that we've solved that, it seems like we're doing pretty well with public transit. So,
all right. So the purpose of our public hearing today is to receive any comments that would go to DOT on specifically the Transportation Commission, correct? That's what you're here for at this time. So with that, are there any other questions of the supervisors before I open the public hearing?
So the previous 2 years, due to COVID, we had a very restricted schedule, right?
yes, we did.
So now we're back to.
So we are 5 days to Reading, 5 days to Willow Creek, and that's the main routes that are very important here because a lot of people have to go to those areas for medical and social service appointments, as well as just budget-friendly shopping and seeing friends and family. So we are.
The Reading line is very, very important.
Yeah,
the most important, and I'm glad to have it back. 2 years not having it was really.
Seeing none, are there any on Zoom?
I have no hands.
Well, with that, we will close the public hearing. All right. Thank you, Sarah. We will see you back on the 20th.
There's 2 resolutions on there. No, you're not. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Sorry.
Okay.
Yep, I was looking at 321.
All right, county matters. These items include non-routine or controversial matters and are listed alphabetically by department and member of the board of staff may request that an item be heard out of order. Does anyone have need to alter the order? All right. County Administrative Office item 5.1, approve a budget adjustment for fiscal year 22-23 for Sheriff Department 2281, increasing transfers in and services and supplies fiscal year 22-23 for contributions to other funds. Department 1990, increasing transfers out by $14,632 and approve a budget adjustment for fiscal year 22-23 for general fund contingency, Department 9901, decreasing appropriations for contingency by $14,632, increase in general fund appropriations in the amount of $14,632. Current contingency balance is $149,437. contingent upon indigent care request approval. Current cash balance of general fund sheriff fund 110 is $774,609. CAO.
Yes, Chair. So I will speak on this topic as General Services has been involved with this as well. So this, if you're familiar with the old jail area and the admin area of the sheriff's office, their main entrance and exit comes out. It goes by where the bakery is currently being built. They're scheduled to open on the 4th of July. And that is there's also going to be parking established out in front of that facility. That is the main entrance and exit for vehicles that are parked up at the sheriff's admin area there, which is, right, wrong, or indifferent. It is still being used, and we are not able to transition everything over to the new sheriff facility. And that will be used for the foreseeable future there. So in order to alleviate a potential health and safety issue when the sheriff's office has to go out on a code 3 call where they're all leaving via sirens blaring and they're speeding quickly out of that area, we want to adjust the entrance and exits to the opposite side of the building where there's already a minimal entrance there that goes out between the Veterans Hall and the sheriff's facility there. So to do that, we need to take down the old wall that is built out of concrete blocks of the outdoor fitness facility for the old jail there. That will allow a corner to be built and basically a straight shot out from where the vehicles are parked back there to the exit facility. And then they would leave through the Veterans Hall area there and then out to the stoplight where the roads all converge there from the school, everything down there. So to do that, we can do that demolish and then do a little bit of horizontal work with small equipment and some gravel there, and that will make that facility usable enough until we can make a longer term transition up to the new facility. So we're really trying to do this to eliminate a potential issue, probably unusually long in front of the bakery. And that is an existing Caltrans project to reduce the length of that guardrail back. And there's also a project with the culvert that goes underneath the highway there. But there is some fish passage issues with that. There's some environmental issues. So those things don't happen quickly. So we're probably looking at the 2 to 3 year time frame before that whole project there gets really established and it becomes much more of a safe area. But even with that done, we'd still not want to be, having sheriff's vehicles in a code 3 situation, entrance and exit there when we have hopefully a good turnout and some patrons parked there at the bakery.
Right.
Yes, that is totally separate than what the piece that we're doing here. That's much more of a longer term, has to do with the 299 corridor there. And that's strictly a Caltrans project, but it is on their to-do list and it is on their project list. It's just not going to happen quickly.
And there will be a stop sign right there as they go out.
I can't commit to that. I doubt it. I don't think they're going to change that and put a stop sign or anything in there because ideally that eventually be more like a true emergency, not use exit and entry point out of there.
All right. Yeah.
Right. With that, we will open public comment.
I have no raised hands.
Okay, close public comment. Bring it back to Supervisor Leutwiler, second by Supervisor Frazier on that one.
And I was able to visit. It's a risky situation for the sheriff's department trying to respond.
Supervisor Frazier.
Aye.
Supervisor Leutwiler.
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan.
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris. Aye. Chairman Fox.
Aye. Right. Health and Human Services, item 5.2. Approve a budget adjustment for fiscal year 22-23 for Indigent Care Department 5080, increasing transfers in by $57,000 and intra-fund expense by $85,500 and decreasing intra-fund expense by $28,500 and approve a budget adjustment fiscal year 22-23 for contributions to other funds, Department 1990, increasing transfers out by $57,000 and approve a budget adjustment for fiscal year 22-23 for general fund contingency, Department 9901, decreasing appropriations for contingency by $57,000, increase in general fund appropriations in the amount of $57,000. Current contingency balance is $206,417. Current cash balance in Indigent Care Fund 111 is $156,153. Director Hamilton.
Okay, thank you. It's not often I come to this podium for asking for general fund. However, this is a program that Health and Human Services administers that is the responsibility of the county to fund. And in Indigent Care, just for some context, there are two programs, if you will. One is indigent burial, which are public health realignment funds that those are for persons that after deceased, there's no means to take care of their services. And so we pay those costs out of this fund. And then the other, which is what I'm here for today, is our general assistance program that is the responsibility of the county to fund. And so this is, we work with individuals that are in poverty, and we have, I would say, below that, maybe a deep poverty. And this population is beyond poverty. And it's historically run maybe 3 to 5 participants a year. And in this last year, we've had even up to 25. So right now we have around 20 participants. Among these participants, of course, of the beyond impoverished, we have a workable or a disabled population. And a disabled population, we are working with them in advocacy, actually with attorneys, to get them on successfully to Social Security benefits, and they stay utilizing this program until that's successful. And there's a reimbursement to the county in that lens. So we do budget revenues for that. And that's about 2/3 of the participants that have a disability insurance claim pending. And then the other maybe third of this, 20 are workable. And so we work with them in a case management sense too, period. So it's an important program. It's one that if we could capture these participants in any other program, we would, but they don't maybe meet this. And, our request to increase our funding as the caseload has grown considerably in this last year. And we just did not forecast that.
So did you say that 2/3 of the total number of cases could potentially qualify for some reimbursement, or 2/3 of just the disabled portion of the cases?
2/3 of our participants are in a process of receiving Social Security disability benefits. And there's a portion of that, and that is litigated before we get reimbursement. So we estimate maybe $8,500 that's reimbursed to the county.
And did I hear right, you approximately 20 people now?
Correct.
And so did you normally budget for more like 5 or 10? You said it was well beyond what you anticipated in the budgeting process.
Yes, I would say that we budgeted probably for 10 to 12.
Okay.
We knew that the number had risen just in the impacts of COVID. We saw all of our participation in programs rise in the last 3 years. So, no exclusion there for this program either. But it doubled even from what we inflated. So.
Do you attribute just COVID to this, or is there some other factor that this is jumped from a handful plus to 20 or plus?
I think there's a lot of, maybe we can speculate a lot of reasons why this has grown. Most of these are single individuals. I think that we just are seeing more of that in our community. Single individual homeless mental health, substance abuse. It's just but again, it's the take 2 steps down in the impoverished status. So this is a program we don't want to see grow. We want to capture and support. One of the newer programs that the state has mandated is the Housing and Disability Advocacy Program, HDAP. And so for participants to be eligible to that program in their process of applying for Social Security disability benefits, they would be eligible to this program as well. So I think some of the state's new programming has aided in increase to this program in particular. I would say that would be fair. Inmate population, there's more of an inmate population that might be eligible to Social Security disability benefits as well. So when, as Ruby was talking about, you have more of that population that stays local in town. So we would be picking up serving them versus if they were moved to another space in the state. There's a lot of variables.
Yeah, it seems to correlate though with what I see just driving around. I mean, there's certainly been an uptick in what you're talking about. I just wonder if we could focus on something, maybe not this time, but in the future.
Sure, and this is probably a particular program where we're going to do our best to see if there is any other program available first before this one.
I appreciate it.
Any other questions? All right, with that, we'll open public comment. There's none in the room.
I have no raised hands.
All right, close public comment, bring it back to the board.
Motion to approve as submitted.
Yeah.
I'd just like to make a comment.
We need to grab a second first if we could.
Oh, second.
All right, go ahead, Supervisor Cook-Harris.
I would just like to speak to my evolution of thought around these types of programs over my lifetime. The gaining of empathy and sympathy to the folks who are in the status that you're talking about is one that unfortunately I've had the opportunity to experience with close family members and other young, mostly women in my community. And these programs that we're speaking of right now really do scoop up those who are at the very end of that road, holding on by the very pinky finger, if they even can. And I have seen these types of programs just hold them up just enough to where they can get their lips above water, to get a breath and maybe find opportunities for different choices. So I thank you for having the heart that your department has for these folks that are in our communities.
Yeah. All right, with that, we have a motion by Supervisor Lutweiler, second by Supervisor Gogan.
Supervisor Gogan.
Aye.
Supervisor Lutweiler.
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier.
Aye.
Chairman Cox.
All right, human resources out of 5.3. Pursuant to Trinity County Code Section 2.60.410A, authorize hiring candidate number 213788 as a mental health clinician 3 at range G 239 step E in the Department of Behavioral Health Services. Approximate cost and salary and benefits per month for a mental health clinician 3 at A step is $9,376 and at E step is $11,197. We have CAO Hamilton, sorry. We have too many titles in too short a period of time. So we have Director Hamilton acting as human resources. Thank you.
Thank you, board, for consideration of this item. As you've heard from Director Sussman in the recent past, and she was doing a presentation. This is one of the most difficult positions to fill and has been vacant that had submitted their application, interviewed, and was, of course, ranked highly by the hiring panel. And they felt that the range that was appropriate to bring them in at was the one that's presented with step E today, and I would support that. They have the budget for it, and this person's qualifications commiserate with that, and so we would.
All right, thank you. Questions of supervisors?
So this candidate is still viable for us with this approval?
Yes.
Great.
All right, with that, we will open public comment. Any in the room? Any on Zoom?
I have no raised hands.
Okay, you're bringing it back to the board and entertain motion.
I'll make a motion to approve 5.3 as stated.
Okay, motion by Supervisor Gogan.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Gogan, second by Supervisor Lutweiler.
Supervisor Lutweiler.
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan.
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier.
Aye.
Chairman Cox.
Aye. All right, thank you. All right, with that, we're moving to closed session item 6.1, Government Code Section 54954.5C, conference with legal counsel, anticipation of litigation, number of cases 1. Is there any public comment on this item?
I have no raised hands.
All right, with that, we will close our open session portion and move into closed session.